All right.
Welcome in.
Welcome to another Sunday episode of HerTake. With my
Freezing out.
it's
but-
snowing, definitely ice on the ground. Uh, okay, we all persevered. Just to remind everyone, my name is Chelsea.
My name's Brielle, and we're joined by two wonderful guests today. Please introduce yourselves.
Hi, I'm Yen.
I'm Gabe.
I mean, Yan, you've been on the show a couple times now.
So is Gabe. Yes.
Yeah, show as well.
Yeah.
Well, yes, of
Oh
course.
yes. Previous
love-
host
I
coming
love
back.
Yan. Yeah, I don't know. It's cold today. We have a good 3 segments. Hopefully
Yeah.
we'll get to all of them.
Hopefully, it'll get heated enough to kind of warm us up, eh?
Huh?
Perfect.
I see what you did there.
So we definitely have a lot to get to and a lot of beloved topics by some of our guests today. So I guess we can just go ahead and get started.
Yeah.
So we wanted to kind of start off with a little bit of a collab between like college lacrosse and then Northwestern lacrosse. So the NCAA women's lacrosse season just recently wrapped up with, of course, UNC claiming the national championship, going undefeated and beating beloved. Are we allowed to like claim love for Northwestern on this?
I feel like
It's objective. They are beloved by people.
Yes.
Monte Hiller is in the Italian American Hall of Fame.
Wait, what?
I
Hello?
that for stat. Hold up.
Good morning?
Beloved by the Italians, beloved by a lot of the people in the OACR today. But basically just kind of give your guys' genuine anything you have to talk about college lacrosse, Northwestern lacrosse.
I mean, yeah, season's right around the corner.
Yeah.
So we're previewing it. It's almost here, but yeah.
Anything you guys want to talk about, where I'm honestly all ears. I don't know much about lacrosse. I'm happy to learn.
2009, I confirmed. Italian American Hall of Fame inductee in 2009.
One of our lacrosse players.
Our lacrosse coach.
Kelly
Oh.
Hiller.
Interesting.
Yeah.
2009.
Yeah.
She
And-
played what, professionally or?
She played for Maryland and then she like started coaching Northwestern in 2005 and
Wow.
won like 4 straight championships. But
Hmm.
yeah, so I think going off there's both a lot of storylines in Northwestern and in the general scene of women's college lacrosse. And I think that with Northwestern, I feel like every year there's storylines, but I think this year especially there's 2 very, very big storylines. One of them being Northwestern's transfer class. 4 transfers, all of them seniors, probably the best transfer class in the country. It's like if you could have like had a list of top transfer portal targets, I think Northwestern would have gotten all of them. And I think that's Maddie Epke from James Madison on the attack, Olivia Adamson from Syracuse also on the attack, both All-Americans, and then Annabelle Child, who played as a defender for Harvard but is listed on the Northwestern roster as a midfielder, which is kind of interesting. But she played for Harvard, has experience playing for the Canadian national team. And also Jenica Cuoco in goal. From Drexel, she led the nation in save percentage, I believe, in 2024. So very star-studded group of newcomers and Northwestern did lose a lot last year, so it'll be interesting to see how these newcomers can kind of make up for that and maybe make Northwestern even better. And I think the second storyline that's really big is obviously Northwestern hosting the Final Four at home in May, and that will be the first time a location outside the Eastern time zone hosts a Final Four.
Really?
So on the men's and women's side, so very cool for Northwestern. So I think that very cool opportunity, but I also think there will be a lot of motivation for Northwestern to win the national championship at home, because obviously they lost last year and the year before, so you don't want to see another team lifting the trophy on your home turf, don't you? So I think that's definitely like a motivation. So those are the 2 Northwestern storylines. I fear I'm talking too much. I'll let Gabe.
No, you're
Oh no, I'm gonna chime in on both those storylines anyway. Let's start where we were at before. I think the big aspect too is having that home field advantage when lacrosse is such an East Coast dominant sport, right? So we see this in North Carolina, we see it in Massachusetts. Love my home state. But like,
Shout out Massachusetts.
Thank you, Brielle.
You don't hear much about it.
Yeah, you don't get lacrosse much in Oregon.
Oh yeah, no, definitely not.
One
that
of
as
the
well.
incoming freshmen is from Oregon.
I did see that. She's from Portland. Yeah.
And Lauren Gilbert, who was like one of our really good players, was also from Oregon.
But yeah, I think having this in Chicago is big. I mean, we saw the lacrosse night in Chicago last year too. That was such a raving success. Seeing all these, especially like young girls, being very, very excited about rooting on a women's lacrosse team, I think just show that this is genuinely a venue where you can see really big turnouts, where you can see just this vast excitement about such a growing sport. And also, it's just the fact that Northwestern has their home fans this year. Not to say the Northwestern fans don't travel, but when you're holding something in Foxborough, for example, right? And it's Northwestern versus BC, obviously there's going to be a lot more BC fans there when they see their team is at home in the playoffs or in the championship game. And I think Northwestern being able to have just a horde of Evanstonians and Chicagoans coming is going to be really huge for their team morale, for one, and just overall for the team's ability to perform. And then on the note of transfers too, the big storyline that's kind of interesting me this year is the goal position. So Jenica Cuoco is the one you mentioned, one of the best goalies in the nation over at Drexel. But it also kind of shows a little bit of a lack of trust from Kelly Amante Hiller in the likes of Fran Argentieri and Kara Nugent, who both last year were kind of these backups that were coming in late games and blowouts, subbing in for Delaney Schweitzer, who is another 1-year transfer from Syracuse. But I think just the fact that these goalies have been developing for so long, really to me, it's a matter of at what point does Kelly Amante Hiller trust these goalies to take over, and who is going to be that kind of next in line? Are we going to keep seeing these 1-year transfers? Because I mean, Ian, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but I feel like Cuoco has to be the favorite by far to be the starting goalie.
For sure. I think she is.
And I mean, you can see Argentieri or Nugent developing as the season goes along. But I am really interested in at what point is Kelly Amante Hiller going to let the younger players take over?
No, that's definitely really interesting. And like you said, so many. I feel like the transfer goalie in lacrosse is kind of becoming like Northwestern football's 1-year transfer quarterback situation because between Molly LaLiberty, Delaney Schweitzer, now Jenica Cuoco, Northwestern hasn't had a starting goalie that was recruited by Northwestern since 2022 when Madison Doucette was the starting goalie. So that's definitely really interesting. And Cara Nugent and Fran Argentieri have played games for Northwestern. Fran Argentieri started the game against Notre Dame last year when Schweitzer wasn't able to play. And I think it kind of shows, like you said, Gabe, like a lack of trust, like how they're getting these opportunities in, but maybe Kelly Amante Hiller isn't liking what she's seeing, and that's kind of pulling her towards these transfer goalies. Because I know even like a few years back, like Monty Hiller was like one of the few coaches that was like pretty adamant about like being against the transfer portal, and now we see like every year she's getting these like 1-year transfer additions. So that definitely a very interesting turnaround. But I don't think Northwestern fans are complaining because very stacked transfer class.
Yeah, and you got to wonder too at what point there's going to be kind of that sure thing goalie. I mean, I'm always comparing lacrosse and field hockey, which is a little unfair, but like we were just talking about field hockey too before.
Yeah.
But you see like someone like Annabelle Scooby, she was just there for so long, and then you see the torch pass over to Juliana Bone. And I just kind of long for a day when women's lacrosse can be like that, where you can like have that goalie that's there for 4+ years. And is really just like, you don't need to worry about it. You can throw this person in goal and feel super comfortable every day. And not that you can't do that with Jenica Cuoco, because I think she's obviously one of the best in the nation. But there's something about having like a face that you recognize there year after year.
Yeah. I mean, it kind of reminds me of like the UNC field hockey situation where this year they
Tessa Shaba.
Well, this year they split between Katie Wimmer and Merritt Skubish, who's a grad student and a freshman. Like they would have one goalie play half a game, the other goalie play another half, and then they got like a transfer goalie this year, Tessa Shabo, who's also
so
really
mad
good.
about Tessa
So
Shaba still.
Merritt Skubish, who is Annabelle's younger sister, like I thought that she would be the starter after Katie Wimmer left, but it seems like they're doing like the whole like switcheroo thing again, and with lacrosse that's like the grad transfer. But okay, not to like get too in the weeds of goalie talk, but you guys did mention national talk, and I do want to touch upon that a little bit, if you guys don't mind. Obviously UNC being dominant, that's gonna be one of the national storylines. Chloe Humphrey, a lot of people are saying like she may be even better than she was last year when she did get the Tewaaraton, because she competed on the US teams this summer, played in the Atlas Cup where she was the MVP, and that like roster included players like Izzy Skane, Charlotte North, who graduated, and she's this like rising sophomore who's like outperforming them at these international competitions. So very interesting to see how she'll perform now that she has like a greater profile, kind of that like target on her back. But I'm also very curious about Clemson lacrosse because they're kind of one of like the hot like new programs. I think their first season was 2023. They made the NCAA tournament for the first time last year, but they're just one of those teams that has invested a lot in women's lacrosse. Like if you go on their Instagram, they're always like talking about their like multi-million-dollar facilities, and this year they have the number 1 and the number 2 recruits coming to their school, and that's Alexis Spalina, Emma Penzek, and Spalina notably coming from a very famous Syracuse lacrosse family, and she initially committed to Syracuse but chose to kind of go her own path to Clemson, which kind of shows like the value and the draw of this new program. And like with now that this team has like actual star power, it'll be interesting to see if they kind of break through with all the investment that they've been putting into the program. So definitely a new team to watch for this year.
Yeah, I still think I'm going to be kind of hung up on these big teams. Like the UNCs of the world is always going to be an interesting one. And they've lost a couple Humphreys, but they've kept a couple Humphreys. Uh, BC, too, is just, I was always kind of unsure about how to feel about BC last season because they were coming off a national championship win. They still had the remnants of a very good team. You saw them beat Northwestern early on, and then come tournament time, the game that Northwestern fans love so much, when they made that massive comeback against BC. When I mean, obviously UNC were the favorites, but I think everyone was taking either UNC or BC last year. And especially losing Rachel Clark now, who is their leading scorer. Emma Pinto is gone too.
BC basketball star.
Yes. But Yedian knows this too. Like, I'm a huge Shea Dolce fan. I think she deserves a Tuaraton. I think the Humphreys. I think Shea Dolce is just miles better than every other women's lacrosse player. And she just doesn't have that kind of basis around her anymore of these top players, of these big kind of offensive threats. And granted, they got new players in, but I'm really curious how BC's offense responds, or if they're just kind of going to be this defensive juggernaut team that tries to win really low scoring matches.
Wow.
You know what I learned?
Yeah, like actually amazing.
I mean, I just wanted to say real quick. I feel like too, coming back to your guys' points of like having that goalie that's like there, that's a recognizable face. I feel like that's just good for team synergy as well, because then like like again the transfers, it's not like they can't bond, but also if you have that relationship of someone who's there for 4 years and you like, I feel like it's easier to count on them and like know that you can rely on them in like those tough situations. And also, I was thinking about how like I think it's the same for field hockey too, but field hockey and lacrosse, how it's like kind of we're in like the Big Ten isn't necessarily as good as the other conferences, but aside from like Northwestern and like maybe one other team. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like it would be crazy. Like, what would it do for the team if like there was a like if we were in a different like set conference with the teams? Like, I don't know. Like, I feel like if
How
I
that
don't know
matchup
if that
would
would like
be.
if we would become more competitive or if it just like wouldn't be as crazy when we go to the finals against these teams. I don't know. I was
If
just
we're
thinking
pulling
of
like
that.
a Notre Dame going independent situation, or like a
Not
Delaware going
necessarily
independent.
not necessarily that, just like
PSF.
just if there was like a conference realignment in terms of like, because like sometimes
Gotcha.
the sports have like individual
Yeah.
sports are in different conferences, you know.
Mhm.
I was just thinking about that. I don't know, someone brought it up to me too.
I will-
Northwestern in the A10 would go so
Oh my
hard.
god. I will say, in terms of the Big Ten being weak, Penn State field hockey just hired former St. Joe's coach Hannah Prince. With St.
UMass
Joe's
alone.
St. Joe's made the national championship in 2024, beat by Northwestern. She's coming to Penn State, so maybe that will start a resurgent for the team, and maybe they'll be kind of up there with Northwestern as a competitor. So,
Yeah.
is Penn State field hockey back? Is the Big Ten back? More to
Also,
come.
on the lacrosse note too, like if you're realigning Northwestern within lacrosse,
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like the ACC is always going to be the powerhouse favorites. If you put
Yeah.
Northwestern in the ACC, I feel like you would just so many years just see like a Final Four of all ACC teams.
Yeah.
Because it feels like ACC and Northwestern. And then, I mean, granted, you have like Florida too, but it feels like that sport that's kind of dominated by like the, Notre Dame, Syracuse, and then BC and UNC at the top. So, I mean, Northwestern. I mean, they went 19-3 last year, right? I think they might have taken a few more losses if they were going through the ACC gauntlet, especially in conference play.
Yeah. Who do you think would come out of that? as the winner.
In an ACC
In
gauntlet,
an
I think it's still
ACC.
got to be UNC.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think UNC. I mean, that's like the boring pick, but I think
But
it's still got to be UNC.
Yeah, and it's like Northwestern played BC and UNC last year as a non-conference matchup and lost. Those were the only two losses they had in the regular season, or also in the postseason as well.
Because that's what I'm thinking too. Like, if you have those tough matchups during regular season, I feel like you're better prepared for postseason.
Yeah.
So it kind of sucks that Northwestern's not getting a lot of exposure to like really tough teams, because I feel like almost when you're against like worse teams all the time, you play to their level, or like you don't necessarily get the experience that you might need.
You're not playing to your best potential.
Something that I wish Northwestern did in both state sports, but especially with lacrosse, is kind of scheduling more Ivy League teams, because I feel like the Ivy League, I mean, they were better than the Big Ten in field hockey. I think aside from Northwestern, they're better than the Big Ten in lacrosse. They had 3 teams in the Elite Eight last year compared to just one for the Big Ten, which was Northwestern.
Johns Hopkins was Elite Eight quality, but they didn't make it.
Yeah. But
sorry, I'm
but like just looking at Northwestern's non-conference schedule, like I just wish, because they do play BC UNC best of the best, but I feel like getting that like kind of that experience and exposure against those like second tier like 5 through 8 ranked teams, which I think a lot of them are going to be Ivy League teams this year. Like I think that would be really beneficial, but they're not playing Ivy League teams, and I wish they did.
Yeah.
They just poach from the Ivy League teams.
Yeah.
The Miles is last year, and
Annabelle Child.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of hopeful thinking when it comes to Northwestern lacrosse, but kind of like that with all Northwestern sports. I'm starting to feel like, but anyway, we have some time left. Actually, I could have sat there and listened to them talk about lacrosse
it's
for the
very
longest.
interesting.
Yes, but let's kind of move on a little bit into the National Women's Soccer League. And a recent rule that they kind of brought into fruition called the High Impact Player Rule. So kind of in a quick little gist, apparently the league has created this rule where basically if the league or if a team has a qualifying star player, as if a player reaches a certain amount of merits, which by the way only 27 league players actually meet, then they should be able to be given an extra $1 million in addition to their cap to be able to spend how they wish. Of course, the Players Association found a little bit of an issue with this, and instead was kind of bringing up the point where if you have the extra millions to give out, maybe just give it to every team, so every team can kind of have that level playing field. And there's a bit of a mash in terms of what's actually the best course of action. So just first off, just kind of overall thoughts on this new rule. Does it make any sense? Is there any sort of logistics behind it you can kind of get behind? And then why do you think the Players Association is pushing back, and will that pushback actually be successful against the league?
Yeah, I think just my general rule of thumb across sports in rules like this is that I tend to. Well, also, okay, I will admit I'm always biased towards the Players Association, because are we going to support the players who are getting paid far less than the billionaires? But
Yeah.
I digress. I mean, I think just the $1 million increase to the salary cap has to make so much more sense in here. I get you want to prioritize star players and make sure you can retain these players that fans really latch onto. But I mean, that's about roughly 2 players per team with 16 teams, 2 of them new expansion teams in the NWSL. But if you're gonna have $1 million exclusively for the players who are already getting paid the most, why not just add $1 million in cap space for the teams that aren't trying to exercise that rule to actually pay their lesser earning players a better wage to kind of even this out in the league as a whole? It just kind of doesn't make a lot of logical sense to me from the owner's perspective. I just feel like the Players Association is such a much better standard argument.
Yeah, I'm kind of on the same page as Gabe here. I know that this whole thing started because Trinity Rodman of the Washington Spirit felt like she wasn't being paid her fair market value, and that's how I think the rule is also called the Rodman rule. And it's like, as much as I do kind of feel I sympathize with her sentiment, I do think it's better for the overall sustainability of the league if you kind of spread the wealth around and not just have this rule for like specific teams with players that have that super high market value. Because yes, like it sucks that she's gonna, if she doesn't get paid her fair share, she may go to another league in Europe that may pay her more, and that's not good for the US. But I also think it would increase in like spreading the wealth across multiple teams will be better for like the depth of US soccer as a whole, and not just about like one or two few star players who can get other opportunities elsewhere.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I feel like this is kind of a little bit of like short-term thinking in a way. Like you were talking about the depth of the actual league. I feel like it doesn't really make much sense to kind of feed into like this hierarchical kind of league that they have in their heads. It sounds like really like communist to say, but like it only makes the most amount of sense. Yeah, like it only makes the most amount of sense to actually you want all teams you want the teams that are great to get better, and you want the teams that are kind of on the lower end to get better. It doesn't really make much sense to feed the teams that are already at this peak, oh, here goes more money. It just
Mhm.
kind of makes more sense if you want the league to kind of retain any sense of competition. Someone wants to watch anything where the same team is winning all the time because they have
Mhm.
the money to keep winning.
Reminds me of the baseball debacle going on right now with
Yeah.
the Dodgers.
Or
But
just
yeah.
the Players Association in general. Like Bryce Harper kind of threatened Rob Manfred, the
Really?
commissioner. Rob Manfred, sorry. Yeah, Rob Manfred was talking about kind of imposing, I believe it was a salary cap or a salary floor, and Bryce Harper just kind of pulled him aside and was like, "Yeah, you're not doing this, buddy."
Yeah.
I mean, I don't have much to say about it. I agree with, like, I echo everything that you guys said. I feel like spreading the wealth will create a league that's more fun to watch for everybody and create opportunities for players all around instead of just like a couple people getting all the money. And the teams that are better just keep getting better. It makes it more competitive, I feel like, if you spread the wealth.
Yeah.
Um, we have like a couple minutes left. I
Yeah.
think we could quickly move on to the last segment. I saw this pop up on my Instagram feed the other day. About how Nebraska has made women's flag football their official 25th varsity sport. And they're immediately looking for a new coach. They said they hope to get this coach by the summer, and they want to recruit a roster of approximately 15 players by the start of the fall 2026 semester. This will be the 15th women's varsity sport for Nebraska. Um, and I don't know. I just thought this was interesting too because they're not set to actually play an actual season until 2028, like spring. So I just wanted your guys' thoughts on like not only what this means just to have this as a varsity sport, and it's like the first power conference to do this. But then also why are they building a team so early? Like I kind of understand maybe the thoughts behind it, but I didn't know if you guys had anything to share.
So
Yeah. Oh, go ahead.
I'm pretty excited to talk
Yeah.
about this because I did a story for my internship last summer with Delaware Online where I talked to a few Delaware high school flag football players, and they're kind of talking about like the investment and the overall growth being put into girls flag football as something like I know they had 4 teams the year before, 8 the year prior. You need 16 for it to be a sanctioned high school sport in Delaware, but I think like all around the country, I think the NFL is putting a lot of investment in flag football for girls because they kind of want that like female like participation, female audience, especially during the Olympics. But I'm more so curious about like whether this is sustainable and whether like people are actually like interested in playing. Obviously like football in the US is like the biggest thing, but I think a lot of people are gonna like pay attention to girls flag football because it's kind of like a novelty, and you kind of get this like investment, and you get teams like Nebraska that want to make it a varsity sport. But is this gonna be something long term that people want to do or interested in? That's what I'm curious about.
Yeah, I would say the same thing. I'll echo Yanan's sentiment on that, about the long term nature of it. But I also just think it's got to be really cool to see how many conference and especially power conference schools pick it up. Nebraska expanding to 25 as well. I think when you mentioned Brielle, the kind of timing of it, I think it makes a lot of sense actually. If you start in fall 2026, that means it's the next school year that you're starting to compete. If you kind of have a team all together that's practicing with each other for a full year, year and a half in advance, not only is that going to create a sense of excitement, or when you're recruiting more athletes the next year, they're going to be able to know their teammates. They're going to be able to know the coach and maybe attend a practice, have, this very kind of scheduled outlook. Whereas the players who are kind of coming in for this first year are a little bit in the dark, those first 15, on what exactly the outlook of the team is going to look like. But when you have something more grounded, I could see this growing and growing and growing for years to come. especially when they're investing in it as like a full varsity sport. You're going to see it on the website. You're going to see the players out there. I'm really excited for what it means about the future. And obviously, I'm not a big football fan myself, but I could certainly see myself watching some flag football.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I feel like there's obviously an opportunity there for money to be made. So I don't doubt that this is going to start like a big wave of how can we have a part in this. And yeah, I feel like flag football is definitely something where it's like even people that aren't necessarily football fans in general, I feel like maybe the thing that people don't like about football is exactly what flag football is there to like kind of
Yeah.
scoop up like the stragglers of people that don't necessarily like the tackling and stuff like that. So yeah, I feel like this is something that people would definitely tune into. And I feel like even though it feels super far in the future, 2028 is will be gone. Like
Don't say that.
2028, like I don't know.
They'll be gone too.
Yeah, they'll
Well,
be
before.
long gone.
Well, no, you guys will still be here because it's spring 2028,
Well,
right?
yeah, but
Yeah.
Aren't you guys
that's like
graduating in
graduating.
2028?
June, yeah.
Yeah. So it'll be there in the spring. It'll
Oh,
be
perfect.
it'll be your senior spring.
There we go. We'll have HerTake
Woo-woo.
reunion so we can watch Nebraska flag football.
Or maybe Northwestern will have a team. We
Yeah.
can we can
Listen.
try out. I guess that's a no.
Offensive linewoman Chelsea Robinson.
I am team you guys. But yeah.
I don't know, I think that was a good end, good wrap up part. Thank you guys so much for coming on. It was a blast to hear you talk about lacrosse. Low key, Chelsea and I need to study up because it is very interesting.
Yeah, it is. I think the show has done a really good job of like kind of humbling me in terms of wow, like I know one sport. Yeah, I think it's really interesting.
You
to
know
hear,
a lot about basketball.
I know a lot about basketball, but I mean, like how many rundowns have we had that kind of have like a basketball thing? I think it's really interesting to hear other people talk so passionately about their basketball, like what that would be for them. So
Coastal Elite Sport.
hey,
All right.
yes, thank you guys so much for coming on, and thank you for everyone tuning in on radio and YouTube.
And we'll see you next week.